All right, do you see that title? White woman spends money on elite dating site only to find mediocre men. Now, I want you to see this title. Actually, it's worse in the title. I spent my savings on an elite matchmaking agency only to meet an array of mediocre men. And so I wanted to put that in there because nobody really ever asks, at least on YouTube, I see a lot. I guess maybe because I'm looking at a particular group, I see a lot of women complaining that they can't find the right individual to get involved with. And here you got this, this woman here who happens to be white, and she's complaining too. Oh boy, I found it hilarious because a lot of times when people think it's just coming from one race of people or one group of people that there's like relationship conflicts or problems, they don't step outside to see what other people's problems are and see that it's happening in other groups. According to this article, of course, it was the way it's. I'm going to have to probably go into another feed. But anyway, glass of wine in hand, the man sitting opposite of me in the restaurant was in full flow while he was droning on about his work commitments. So I zoned in and out trying to work out how on earth I was going to get through to this first date. So I guess she wanted it to end because maybe it was boring. So she said she zoned in and out, so that's what it sounds like. So I had expected to meet an eligible bachelor, but he had turned out to be exactly so boring that he made me want to stick asparagus up my nostrils. That's funny. This memory came flooding back when I read Teresa Berkey, a city financer who last week successfully sued Knightsbridge-based elite matchmaking service. So somebody actually had a lawsuit on one of these things. I'm surprised they hadn't had more lawsuits. That's a lot of money. Please tell me you're not spending that on this. So it says after they faced her, the man of her dreams. So now this is something new that I'm informed now, just now getting informed on, that people actually spend a lot of money on these dating sites. Boy. So a couple of years ago, I too joined an expensive matchmaking agency. So I had just come out of a 7-year relationship and was on the wrong side of 50. So I soon tired of online, she soon was. See, they didn't write that. I'm having fun here. So she said she was soon tired of online dating and receiving messages from overweight baldies. Ooh, that's cold-blooded. Who peppered their emails with childish emojis. That is childish. That is, like if you're that age and you're putting emojis, well, oh, whatever. I don't know. In a relationship, I would think, if you're just commenting in general, but, maybe not in a relationship when you're trying to communicate with somebody, that might not be appropriate. But anyway, it goes on. I hankered to find Mr. Right for me, a man who was suitably educated and a successful professional. So this is how I found myself throwing money, my entire savings, to be precise, to an upmarket matchmaking agency in central London. So the agency claimed to filter out the undesirables and the mediocres. And so we know, those of you who don't know mediocre, he's just average, he's not really that exciting, and undesirables, they drink too much, they hang out at clubs, they're, lazy, they're carpetbagger, and also thugs, so forth, or worse. Okay, a scumbag. No. So it goes on to say, and give clients the personal touch. Okay, so this is what this site was supposed to give. Find her, Mr. Right. So I handed over the hefty sum of $6,000. Whoa, these women are paying out lots of money. Okay, so let's stop for a minute. Now, these are white women doing this. Now, so all of the African American women who have these little dating woes and all these problems in the Black community, guess what? You're not alone. But there are other women of other nationalities and backgrounds and races that have jacked up situations too. So you'd be happy to know this. And what makes it worse, they're putting out a lot of money for dating sites filled with losers. So, so Teresa Berkey, the city financer who successfully sued Knightsbridge-based Elite, now this is supposed to be elite class matchmaking service, for the return of her $12,600 fee credit. Wow. So as I waited to be matched with someone from their extensive database, I idly imagined my handsome date, cashmere polo neck, a bit academic and kind. We eat steak tartare and swap notes on our latest clever box set, find and favorite novels. So how could I have got it so wrong? The reality was an array of terrible matches, a growing sense of alarm, and a flaming row of flash restaurants in Chelsea. So the first indication that all was not as I expected came when I met at a personal matchmaker at a Park Lane hotel for tea and an interview. So I'm sitting in the corner of the drawing room, blonde green dress, books on the table. She pinged through on my iPhone, or pinged through on my iPhone, as what I was saying. We chatted about holidays in southern Spain, men with bad haircuts, and my ideal date. So, are you a psychologist? I asked, eager to press her and her method of assessment. So, I guess they pay a lot of money for this website, and it's supposed to match you up with the most elite type of males or mates. And once you pay this money or whatever, you get like a personal interview and they assess you to see what your likes, dislikes. Probably they do the mates, the different potential mates the same way. And so she wasn't getting, these people weren't not getting what they were paying for. And they were getting less than, a lot less than what they claimed to have said elites. And so it goes on to say, oh no, I'm just a people person. I love people, she trilled. So I told her how I love folk music. My favorite film was The Deer Hunter, and I enjoyed weekends in courtyards so far, so banal. So I paid $3,000 to a dating agency, but there weren't enough men. So a few days later, she emailed me. And so I guess this is a dating consultant with the details of W, a successful entrepreneur who had traveled extensively and also liked folk music. So when I met him at a pub in Richmond, I was shocked. I was expecting a cultured, dynamic man. Instead, I got a man with a pair of jeans, a moth-eaten jumper, and the table manners of a modern-day baldric. They're not happy. I'm getting a kick out of this because the reason why is because I've seen videos on YouTube and some other places where, African American or Black women are complaining about some of the men in their culture. And this I'm reading is white women complaining about the men in their culture. And so this is what makes it funny because if you just read what other people are going through, it's not just one group. So, well, fortunately, well, okay, according to this, so it says, and therein lies the rub. So these agencies trade on their exclusivity, yet the men I met were far from the international super elite they promised. And the so-called experts were a group of per it says PR girls with swishy hair and an ability to write up a nifty press release. So the thing I found most unnerving, though, was not being allowed to see what my date looked like. That is key factor, ladies. This is what's funny. I know it's like you don't know what they look like. You don't know if they're telling the truth. But see, what's crazy about these sites and these women paid like you're hearing fees like $6,000, $3,000, 12, 12, 12,600. What else could you be doing with that money beside dealing with this crap here? A whole lot of other things, paying your way, your mortgage, paying, for your car or whatever, doing or going on a trip, like maybe a retreat or something, or, going to the spa or doing something else, because this right here, these dating sites are not only dangerous, but they're expensive and you're wasting. Now, they're complaining that they've wasted a lot of money and they're suing these dating sites because they're supposed to be elite and they're shelling out a lot of money. Think of some of the places that you could save up the money to go to, with a group of friends that you can trust, instead of wasting your money on something you don't even know if it's really, according to this, they've actually met the people they were supposed to be matched up with and they turned out to be a flop. So according to this also, the people who do the assessments, they're just good at, making up all the assessments. And see, they're just working to get paid. So you really can't blame them either. So they're just going to do their job and match you up according to what they see written on screen. But they haven't themselves actually, well, they might have met the other persons, but that doesn't mean that, they have to date them. They don't have to date them. You're the one looking for the date, not them. So they don't even care. So it says, this is crazy. It says it wasn't too much a surprise then that they rarely got it. So for the next few months, I dated up and down the eligibility scale. So some men were pleasant, but dull. Others who said that they wanted to be in a relationship, but were burdened with so much baggage, they were toxic. And I was expecting a cultured and dynamic man. Instead, I got a man with table manners of modern day baldric. There was a 65-year-old American with a stunning property portfolio who broke the rules and Googled me. Oh man, that's crazy. Only to inform me that I was too old for him. So the funny looking barrister who invited me to his St. James Club and turned out to be a prickly and aggressive and a man who sold jumpers who took me to dinner. in the full ham told me I should have worn a clinger dress, a clingier dress. So he's probably a masher. After he spent the entire meal chatting to a group of 20 something blondes at the next table, I left in disgust. I could picture this happening. So I was about to call it a day and demand my money back. So I want my money back. Look at this picture down here. So we met at the pub near his home. So on date number two, he said he said he really liked me and whisked me away to the Cotswolds. So not wanting to appear presumptuous, he booked 2 rooms. I was quietly hopeful. She does not look like she's interested. But very quickly, the debonair man who had seemed laid back in London had morphed into a raging chauvinist in the he is a raging chauvinist in the countryside. So when I started to chat to the waiter in Italian, it became clear to me that my date was not happy. Oh, really? You think? So he muttered something under his breath and rolled his eyes like a stroppy teenager. I was wondering when you were going to let me join your conversation. He boomed. I tried to laugh it off, but clocked this was a man with a fragile ego. And just think they spend a lot of money on these sites. They look like they're totally not interested. So some of the laughing comes that goofy picture. But it said it is a tough time for midlife dating today. Really, tell me about it. And there are a lot of vulnerable, educated women like me who are so desperate for love. Now, that's not me. Me and her, two different people. They are willing to try anything, whatever the price. Now, see, there's your mistake. It may be tough if you are dating, but the part where she's saying she's vulnerable and the part where she's saying she's willing to pay whatever price, that's not good at all. You're just wasting your money. And if you're running into people like this, what else could you be doing? You know, sometimes I feel like people try too hard. But anyway, that's my opinion. So it goes on to say, I learned the hard way, but my advice when it comes to dating is trust your instinct and meet through friends of friend. Oh, exactly. What better way to meet someone? Somebody you already know, somebody you might already be friends with, or you built some type of relationship with. Um, and it says, oh, and it's free. Yeah, exactly. You're not paying 3,000, 12,000, and an upward of you know, maybe even more than that. And then ending up having to sue. And then like some of these sites too, they're dangerous because you might be meeting somebody who might be, you know, a killer or murderer or something like that. He could be running from the law. And so I think it's really risky. Even though there's some humor in some of this, there is some very scary things about this and some very risk-taking things. I guess some people are risk takers and they're willing to do this, but I thought this was pretty interesting because most of the um, there's some, how would you say they are? They're like, I guess they're dating like psychologists or therapists, and they give advice or on dating and all that kind of stuff. And it's usually in the Black community, there's a lot of complaining about people getting together, not wanting to get married because there are fears of negative blowback from bad relationships. Well, it's happening in other cultures. And so I thought this was interesting because you always think it's brighter, the grass is greener on the other side. Apparently not. And so it is hard because when you start to get older, your ideas of life changes. And so your maturity level changes. And but the people that are out there, they're not mature. And so that's probably what's happening. And so it's probably better to get involved with people who are not, like she said, a raging chauvinist. There's people who are real chauvinistic. They have preformed views of what women should do. They want women to be like their own little slave. They want you to look like a supermodel, and yet his gut is dropping over his belt. He's not all that. He's going to get old. He's going to have flaws. He's judging you every step of the way. How would he feel if somebody was judging him like that? Everything about you is something must be wrong with it or whatever. In the beginning, he's putting on an act like he really is excited to be with you. And he probably initially is in the beginning, but then later they become overly controlling, and a drag, or either they're boring as hell. Stuff like sounds like a personal problem, huh? No. But anyway, I'm just saying it just, that I just find it crazy that these women would spend all this money. They work too hard to spend all this money just to find someone. I wouldn't do it. That's my opinion. I wouldn't do it. I don't think it's worth it. Like at the end of this article, it said, why not just date somebody you already know? But then again, I guess it depends. Sometimes people that you end up with are people you wouldn't have thought that you would end up with. That's what I hear. I'm just saying this for other people, not for me. I just thought this was funny though. It says, I spent my savings on an elite matchmaking agency only to meet an array of mediocre men. I wonder, is mediocre really a euphemism of something worse? But anyway, with that being said, I'm going to let this go. I just thought it was hilarious because I've seen some videos on YouTube of women complaining about some of the horror stories, dating horror stories. And here you got white women complaining too. It's just as hilarious. But the sad part about it is that these women are putting out a bunch of money for dating sites that, they claim that, they want to sue the sites because they're not getting what they thought they had intended that they were being assessed on. So that's crazy. Well, I'll say this. I do know some people who did meet people on dating sites. Now, I'm not saying myself, but I know some people who, I know this one lady, now she was a white lady that she met, well, she is a white lady. She met a guy on a dating site and they ended up getting married and they had a daughter. But at the time, she didn't have any kids. So she wanted to meet someone and get married and have a daughter. And it turns out that the guy, he's Black. It was interracial. They became, of course, an interracial couple. So I also heard of people meeting people just dating. Nothing else deep involved. I know this other white lady who she said she was dating and she would just date people at random. There was nothing, no going to my house, me coming to your house. It was just going on dinner dates and movie dates, and that was it. And this lady, I think she was in her 50s. I knew some other people who had met people, And they say it turned into a short relationship. And then it ended like after maybe 3 or 4 months. So it depends. But these sites weren't like elite sites either. None of them. Even the one where the lady found a husband, whatever. So, but these women here, they're like putting a bunch of money out. Now, somebody's going to look at this and be like, they got that kind of money. That's not nice. But there's going to be predators that are going to do that. But see, if they're going to an elite site, they want a guy that's already established and he has his own. They don't want somebody that's looking to get theirs. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to let this go. I just thought this was, wow, amazing that somebody would put this amount of money. Now, I do know another lady who she actually paid, but she didn't pay like that kind of money. She said she paid like a monthly, like I think it was matchmaker.com, something like that. She said she paid the regular fee or whatever. And I think she did meet someone and she got married. And they're still married. They've been married for more than like 5-6 years or something like that. She's still married. And that's a different couple. It's a different type of couple. But apparently it must be working. She paid, and she didn't pay the money that these women are putting out. It wasn't no elite site. She didn't pay that kind of money, but she ended up finding who she wanted to be with. And she's still with the person. I know some other people who met people and it was like up and down. Like they met people they liked and they met people they didn't like, or they met people and they found them out about them later that they didn't like or whatever. Or they just said, I'm going to let it go or whatever. And, I will be honest, I have been on just to hear what people's thoughts are on the sites. Some of the comments and some of the things that they say is funny. And so I know some people don't want to show their faces, so they'll put like a pet that they have as their avatar or their picture profile. I've heard people say, oh, we don't want any baggage. And here you're like almost 50 something. Like, what the fuck you don't want any baggage by that age? There's going to be some baggage somewhere. Something, that person has lived a life, you're going to be having to hear something, it may not be as dramatic, or maybe it is, but that's who they are. If you've lived to almost be 50, you've either had kids, or even if you didn't have kids, there's a story. You got a story to tell. So I think that's an unrealistic when they say no baggage. I'm thinking when they're saying that, they don't want you to have lived a life and had experiences, and that's unrealistic. So, too, I've heard of people who do have flings, and that's all it is. And that's it. So, and I've heard of people who have met people and they've had people like them a lot and want to develop a relationship, and they want to rush into marriage, but they don't want to get married and they don't want a relationship. They don't feel the same way about that person. So I know some people who went through that. And so, but still, I have never heard of anybody spending the money that these women are spending. That's crazy. Well, with that being said, I'm going to let this go. So ladies, see, it's not as bad as we thought it was. Thanks for listening.